Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are brand new. My name is Danielle and I post all kinds of random content here on YouTube. I'm dabbling a little bit into book content, so we'll see where that takes me. I also post a ton of weekly vlogs and a little bit of some day in the life. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, please hit the subscribe button and like this video if you enjoy. But today I thought it'd be fun to go over all the books I read in March. I did this video last month with all the books I read in February and I really enjoyed filming it, so I thought I'd film another one. I know it's kind of late. We're kind of like really far into April now, but I thought posting this video later rather than not at all was a little bit better. So let's go ahead and jump into the books. I read a total of 6 books last month. Some of these were read on my Kindle and some of them were physical copies. So if I have the physical copies, I will show you guys the book. And if I have it on my Kindle, I'll just pop up a photo of the cover so you know which book I'm talking about. So the first book I want to go over is actually the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and this was The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I read the first book in the series back in, I want to say February, and I went over it in last month's video. I really enjoyed the first book. It was kind of a slow start to the book, but it was really, really good. The second book I did not like as much. I rated it 4 stars, and again, it was very, very, very slow. I felt like it was just like dragging on, and like a lot of what was happening in the book was just so boring. It did get really, really good towards middle end, but like I don't love slow burns. I don't love very slow books that don't have a lot going on. So this was not my favorite. And I definitely liked the first one better, but I still did rate this one 4 stars because I did really like it still. If you don't know what the series is about, it's basically about a vampire king who takes in a human little girl and basically trains her up, and she grows up and has to go, or she chooses to go into this competition called the Kajari, I think is how you say it. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. And she forms an alliance with basically our main male character in the book. And he is a vampire, and so she forms an alliance with him and his best friend. And so they're a little trio going through the competition, and the first book goes all through the competition, and it's basically like an enemies to lovers, and it is definitely romantasy. The second book kind of deals with after the competition and what happens after that. So there's lots of twists and turns, lots of unexpected things, but the first book was really, really, really good. I rated it 5 stars. The second book, 4 stars, so I wouldn't rate it as good. And then we'll see how the third book goes. I don't think I'm gonna enjoy it because it's side character's story, but we'll see. I wanna read it a little bit later on. I haven't even started it yet, so we'll see how that goes for us, but I would recommend this series. I think it's a really good series. And I also think it's actually a pretty good, like, starter romantasy as well. The next book that I read in March was That One Night. And this is actually I don't know, it's like the book before the first book in the Jacksonville Rays series, which is a hockey romance series. And this is by Emily Rath. I have heard 1,020,000 people talk about this series on TikTok and everywhere else, and I had very, very high hopes for this entire series. So this first book, which is basically the point 5 of the series, is basically when our 2 main characters meet for the very first time, and it goes through like a little bitty love story of the meeting. And I rated it 4 stars because it was just like very, very quick. So on one end of the spectrum, the first books I read were very, very slow. And on the other end of the spectrum, this book was so incredibly fast. It was like love at first sight. And like, I'm just like, I'm not into that. So basically it goes through the meeting for the first time. It's very short. It's like a novella, I guess, which is what you'd call it. So you don't really need to read this book before you start like the whole series, but it does give a little bit of like back end to the characters. So the first official book of the series is Pucking Around, and if you've been on TikTok anytime in the last year, you've heard everyone talk about Pucking Around, and I rated this book 3 stars. I had very, very high hopes for this book. Like I said, everyone talked about it, and I kind of knew what to expect going in because I read like all of the triggers and like what to expect and all of that, but I didn't know what to expect. And I will just like disclaimer right here, right now, if you do not like basically books with a lot of smut in them, I would not recommend this series. The first book especially is, to me, it was like no plot, all smut, and it was very intense smut. And like I would say, I read quite a lot of smut. Like that's kind of, you know, like I enjoy that, okay? It's fine. This book was a little much for me. And it is a male, female, male. So if you know what that means, you know. And so if you're not into that, I would not recommend. And it does deal with a lot of just like a lot of very interesting topics. Okay. So I would say not much plot going on, a lot of smut going on. And it was just kind of like, I don't know if I didn't like the writing or I didn't like the story in general. I was not a huge fan of this book, and I almost rated it 2 stars, but I did go ahead and rate it 3 because like I still finished it and like it was a little bit enjoyable, but like overall I'm not really interested in this book. So basically this book is about a woman named Rachel, and in the first book, which is like the little novella of it, is she meets one of the male main characters, and then she scores her dream job at the Jacksonville Rays hockey team, and she ends up learning that this mystery guy, because they did not share names or anything when they first hooked up in the first book, she learns this guy is now on this hockey team, and it was like they were in love on the first day and all of that, and so she thinks, how am I going to get through the next 10 months and not get with him? Spoiler alert, she makes it 5 seconds. And then she meets this guy's best friend who works for the team, and then she meets another guy on the team, and then it just escalates from there. So like I said, basically no plot, lots of smut. If you're into that, you will love this. If you're not into that, you're not gonna like it. So take what you will from that, but I definitely was not a huge fan of that book. Now, a book I was a fan of was Collide. Now, I will preface this by saying I was reading 2 hockey romances at the same time. So I was reading Collide, and I was also reading Pucking Around at the same time. And it was very interesting that the 2 vibes were very, very different between these books. I did rate this book 4 stars. This was a very just like lighthearted romance. It had a little bit of smut, it had some plot, and it just kind of was a good light read, which I enjoy, a good light romance read. And it was sports. I really enjoy sports romances. I know not everyone does, but like that's right up my alley. So this book is basically about these 2 characters who are in college. He is the, what is it called? The captain of the hockey team. And she wants to be a sports psychologist. So she ends up having to do a project on hockey. And she hates hockey. And he has to take a punishment for his team and has to work on the project with her. So they are forced into working on this project together. So he has to help her as his punishment. And they're both unhappy about it. And they end up arguing a bunch. It turns into bantering. And then they eventually find solace in each other. So this book was very, very good. I did rate it 4 stars because it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I love this book so much, but I really did enjoy it and I would recommend it. It's just a very lighthearted sports romance. The next book I read is actually the second book in this series, which is the Off the Ice series, and I think the 3rd one comes out a little bit later this year. I already pre-ordered it because I really liked this series. This book I loved. I gave this one 5 stars. I liked this one more than Collide. And this one is about the guy. So this guy was in the first book. So they're kind of like interconnected together, but you don't have to read like that one first. You could read them in whatever order. So they are out of college now, and he is on a hockey team, and he is struggling to get his first goal. She is an aspiring ballerina, and she does not have the popularity to get to where she wants to be. So they end up fake dating to get him out of the press looking like a playboy. And she wants to date him because she needs the popularity to get on her little ballet thing that she wants to do. So they end up fake dating, and then you know how it goes from there. It turns into they are not faking it anymore. So this book was really, really good. I really enjoy fake dating romances and sports, so it kind of like combined the two. And I really, really liked this one. It was another very lighthearted, easy read, quick, and it was just a good, solid romance with a very good mix between plot and smut and just like, you know, all the good things you want in a book. And then the very last book I read in March was The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I enjoyed this book. It was not my favorite. I rated it 4 stars. Probably could have done even 3 stars, but I did 4 because I did enjoy it. It just was not my favorite. This is another sports fake dating romance book, and this is actually 2 best friends. So he is in the NFL and she is a dance teacher. She is an aspiring ballerina. She got in an accident, so she had to be a teacher instead. And they are very best friends. And basically, they both have feelings for each other, but they're both in the friend zone because they won't admit the feelings to each other, even though they share the same feelings. So we basically go through this book, and she ends up spilling her like love for her best friend to a TMZ reporter, and that gets spread over all the internet. The publicist for our guy in the NFL loves it and wants to take them into the public eye fake dating, so that's what we do. And then eventually all their feelings come out and it turns from fake to real. You know, the normal stuff in a fake dating book. This was another very easy, quick read. I did not like it as much as both of these, I would say. But it was okay. I think there is a second book in this series. I think it's called The Rule Book. And I thought I had it. Okay, I swear I had the second book in this series, but now I can't find it. But my son probably put it somewhere where it doesn't belong, so who knows where it is. But I would say it was an okay book, not my favorite, not the worst. Easy, quick read. Okay, I lied. I actually want to go through one other book because I finished it on April 2nd and started it on March 24th, so I feel like it belongs in the March video. And this is actually the second book in the Jacksonville Rays series. It is Pucking Wild. I enjoyed this book much, much, much more than the first one. There still was a lot of smut in this book. These are just like very smut heavy books, I've noticed. But this is about our best friend to the main character in the first book, who is named Tess. And she is in the process of basically getting a divorce, but it's not final yet, but they've been split up for a while. So our main male character is named Ryan. He is on the Jacksonville Rays, and he is like 10, I want to say it's like 10 years younger than Tess. So they end up finding themselves living under the same roof in one of their other teammates' places while they both needed a place to stay. And they first met and actually shared a kiss in the very first book in the series. And so the second book starts off with us kind of finding out that that's what had happened prior. And Tess, dealing with all of her divorce and everything, doesn't want to kind of jump into that. And so we go through while they're living together, and they don't, I wouldn't say it's enemies to lovers, but they are like, I guess forced proximity is what you could call this one, because they have to live under the same roof. And we go through and they're living together, and they end up hooking up throughout them living together. And then we end up meeting her ex-husband, who is a terrible person. And so the story kind of escalates from there, and we learn more about all the situations. And then they have to basically figure out if the age gap is too much for them, and if they can basically put aside all their differences to come together and be together. So I enjoyed this book much, much more than the first one. I rated this one 4 stars. And the first one, I rated it 3, but really it was like 2.5. I'm very generous with my ratings. I'm trying to be a little more strict on them since I'm doing these videos now. Before I would just be like, you get a 5 star, you get a 5 star. But I'm trying to be a little more critical of some of these books, because as I read more, I'm realizing, nah, maybe those books were not that great. So trying to be a little more critical. So I did 4 stars for this one because it definitely wasn't my favorite book ever. But I did like it a lot more than the first one, like by far. This one had a lot more plot in it than the first one. So I did like it. And I really liked the male main character in this book, Ryan. He just, he had like a good little puppy dog feel about him. So I really did like it. So that was actually the very last book I read in March, and we will go over the 3rd book in the Jacksonville Rays series in the All the Books I Read in April video once we get to that. But those are all the books I read in March. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts on them were. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, you know, everyone can like books or dislike books. So I love to hear everyone else's opinion and what they thought of it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys again in my next video.